Welcome back to my channel. Today we explore the value of specific coins, the top 9 Washington silver $quarter coins value in today's market. So let's get started. First up, the 2000 D Jefferson nickel. Let's start with a little history on the Jefferson nickel series. First issued in 1938, this 5-cent piece has featured the profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, ever since. This design replaced the earlier Buffalo nickel and has gone through a few design changes over the years. On the obverse, or front side of the coin, we see Thomas Jefferson's profile, originally created by artist Felix Schlag. The reverse side features an image of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home. This classic design made the Jefferson nickel one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. currency. Let's zoom in on the 2000 D Jefferson nickel. What does the D stand for? It indicates that this coin was minted in Denver, Colorado. Each U.S. mint location has its own letter marking D for Denver, P for Philadelphia, S for San Francisco, and W for West Point, though West Point only produces special coins. In the year 2000, both the Denver and Philadelphia mints produced Jefferson nickels. Denver struck around 1.6 billion nickels that year, so it's not a rare coin by mintage numbers alone. But of course there's more to a coin's value than just its rarity. The 2000 D nickel, like other Jefferson nickels, has a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This specific alloy combination gives the coin its characteristic silver-like color, and it's quite durable, making nickels resistant to wear and tear. If you look closely, you'll see that the obverse of the coin shows Jefferson's left profile with the words "In God We Trust" and liberty, as well as the year 2000. Flip it over and you'll find Monticello on the reverse, along with the words E Pluribus Unum and United States of America. This classic design was a staple of U.S. currency until a redesign began in 2004 to commemorate the Lewis and Clark expedition. Let's talk about value. The 2000 D Jefferson nickel is common in circulation, so a well-worn example is typically worth its face value of 5 cents. However, higher-grade coins, ones that are uncirculated or with minimal scratches and no tarnish, can be worth more to collectors. Coins that are graded MS65 or higher by professional grading services, like the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS) or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC), are more valuable, sometimes selling for a few dollars rather than just 5 cents. Coins that have full steps on the Monticello building, meaning all 6 steps are visible with no wear, are especially desirable, as this is a rare detail that requires excellent strike quality. One exciting thing about the 2000 D Jefferson nickel is the potential for errors. Errors are mistakes that occur during the minting process, like misaligned dies, double strikes, or improper planchettes. Although not every 2000 D Jefferson nickel has errors, finding one with a mistake can make it much more valuable. Some of the most common errors in the Jefferson nickel series include die cracks, off-center strikes, and doubled dies. Coins with these unique flaws often fetch higher prices from collectors. So, if you come across a 2000 D Jefferson nickel with something unusual, it's worth having it checked out. Now, if you're looking to add a valuable 2000 D Jefferson nickel to your collection, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, look for coins in mint condition with no significant scratches, stains, or signs of wear. If you find a coin with full steps on Monticello, that's a bonus. If you own a valuable or high-grade nickel, you'll want to protect it. Use a soft, lint-free cloth and avoid touching the coin's surface. Storing coins in a plastic coin holder or a flip case will keep them safe from air exposure and scratches. The 2000 D Jefferson nickel might be common, but it still has appeal for collectors. Coins in pristine condition, those with full steps, or rare errors can be surprisingly valuable. If you love history or just enjoy collecting, it's worth keeping an eye out for a quality example of this coin. You never know what you might find in your change. Next up, the 1988, and see what makes this particular year and mint special. The D mint mark on the 1988 Jefferson nickel tells us that it was minted in Denver. This nickel is part of the long-running Jefferson nickel series, which was produced continuously from 1938 through to modern times. The 1988 nickel specifically represents the classic design era before the updates of the 2000s. On the front of the 1988 D Jefferson nickel, you'll see a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson. This side, called the obverse, has been in circulation since 1938 with only minor changes. Alongside Jefferson's portrait, you'll notice the words "In God We Trust" on the left and the word "Liberty" with the date, 1988, to the right. Below the date, you'll find the D mint mark, identifying this coin as being minted in Denver. Now on the back, we have Monticello, Jefferson's famous estate in Virginia. This beautiful building symbolizes Jefferson's architectural and agricultural innovations. Above Monticello, it reads "E pluribus unum," a Latin phrase meaning "out of many." One beneath Monticello, you'll find the words Monticello and 5 cents, along with United States of America, along the bottom edge dot. So what is this coin made of? From 1946 onward, including the 1988 D nickel. But Jefferson nickels have been made of a copper-nickel composition. It's about 75% copper and 25% nickel, which gives it that familiar, durable feel. Each nickel weighs 5 grams and measures 21.21 millimeters in diameter. This metal composition has been a part of the nickel for many years, except for a brief period during World War II when nickel was needed for the war effort. During that time, nickels were made of a silver alloy, which we now call war nickels, but by 1946, the mint returned to the copper-nickel blend we see here in the 1988 D nickel. Now, let's talk about the value. As a modern coin with high production numbers, the 1988 D Jefferson nickel is generally worth its face value of 5 cents. However, coins in exceptional condition can be worth more to collectors. For example, a high-grade mint state version, where the coin is nearly flawless and uncirculated, could fetch anywhere from 25 cents to a few dollars, depending on the condition and demand. Collectors often seek out coins in mint state, graded by services like PCGS or NGC. Graded coins can command higher prices, with those in the highest possible grade, MS67, selling for several dollars or more. Even though it's not rare, a pristine 1988 D nickel can be a fun addition to any collection. Did you know that Jefferson nickel has only had a few major design changes since 1938? The most notable was in 2004 and 2005 when the U.S. Mint celebrated the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition with a new series of designs. These coins gave collectors a unique variety and honored Jefferson's contributions to the expedition. And here's another fun fact: while the nickel doesn't contain silver, war nickels from 1942 to 1945 do. They're about 35% silver, making them a bit more valuable. Handling your coins properly is essential for preserving their value. If you have a 1988 D Jefferson nickel in pristine condition, consider storing it in a protective holder or a coin album. Avoid touching the coin's surface directly with your fingers, as oils can cause tarnishing. Storing coins in a dry, cool place away from sunlight is also a good idea. This will help preserve your coins for many years, even if you're just collecting for fun. And that's a wrap on the 1988 D Jefferson nickel. While it may not be the most valuable or rarest coin in your pocket, it carries a unique history and design that's been a part of American coinage for over 8 decades. Next up, the 1940 Jefferson nickel showcases Jefferson's Monticello home. Below Monticello, you'll see the coin's value 5 cents around the top. We have the words United States of America, and directly above Monticello is the Latin phrase "E pluribus unum," meaning "out of many." This design reflects American ideals of unity and freedom. In 1940, the U.S. Mint produced Jefferson nickels at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia had no mint mark, while Denver coins featured a small D mark, and San Francisco coins had an S mark. This year was notable for high mintage numbers. Philadelphia alone struck over 175 million Jefferson nickels, making the coin widely available. When evaluating a 1940 Jefferson nickel, pay attention to a few important details. First, check for the sharpness of Jefferson's profile and Monticello on the reverse. Coins with well-defined details and little wear can be much more valuable to collectors. Coins in mint state or uncirculated condition are highly desirable, especially those with brilliant luster and minimal marks. One of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting is finding error coins, and the 1940 Jefferson nickel has its share. There are a few popular errors to look out for. Doubled die. Some 1940 Jefferson nickels have noticeable doubling on the text, especially on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." Look closely with a magnifying glass to spot this subtle but valuable error. Off-center strike. Occasionally, these nickels were struck off-center, which means the design is shifted, sometimes missing part of the image. off-center errors are highly collectible. Full steps designation coins with an exceptionally detailed Monticello often have what collectors call full steps. This means you can see all 6 steps leading up to Monticello's entrance. Coins with full steps are rare and can be worth a premium. Now, let's talk value. How much is a 1940 Jefferson nickel worth? Well, it depends on the condition, mint mark, and whether it has any unique errors or full steps. In circulated condition, a typical 1940 Jefferson nickel might be worth only face value, around 5 to 10 cents. However, in uncirculated condition or with full steps, they can be worth significantly more. Coins graded MS65 or near perfect mint state might sell for $20–50. Meanwhile, coins with unique errors like a doubled die or off-center strike can fetch hundreds of dollars. The nickel's composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel had to change during World War II. By 1942, nickel was a critical war material, so the mint began using a silver alloy for nickels until 1945. That's why 1940 and early 1941 Jefferson nickels still have the original composition, making them a unique link to the pre-war era. Proper storage is key to preserving the value of your 1940 Jefferson nickel. Always keep coins in a dry, stable environment and avoid handling them with bare hands to prevent oils and dirt from damaging the surface. Consider storing them in a coin album or a coin capsule to keep them in the best condition. Next up, the 1962 Jefferson nickel. This coin was produced at 2 major mints, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. The Philadelphia coins don't have a mint mark, while the Denver coins are marked with a small D on the reverse, to the right of Monticello. In the early 1960s, coin collecting was gaining popularity. Coins from the early 1930s to the 1950s were highly sought after, and people began paying more attention to the Jefferson nickel series. While the 1962 Jefferson nickel may not be as rare as the 1950D, it still holds its place as a beloved classic among collectors. Let's go over some details for the collectors out there. The 1962 Jefferson nickel is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, with a weight of about 5 grams and a diameter of 21.2 mm. Its reeded edge and durable composition make it perfect for everyday use, which is why so many of these coins still survive in circulation today. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint produced around 97 million Jefferson nickels in 1962. While the Denver Mint struck about 280 million. That's a large number, so it's easy to see why these coins are relatively common. However, there are some variations and conditions that can make certain coins more valuable. Condition is key. For a typical circulated 1962 Jefferson nickel, the value is usually around face value to a few cents above. But if you find a coin in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially one with a brilliant or proof-like shine, it can be worth much more. 1962 also saw the release of proof Jefferson nickels. These coins were struck with specially prepared dies and polished blanks to give them a mirror-like surface, which makes them stand out. Proof coins from 1962 were produced in relatively low numbers compared to regular mint coins, making them desirable among collectors. A high-grade proof 1962 Jefferson nickel can fetch a premium, sometimes up to $20 or more, depending on its condition. Here's a rough guide for the value of a 1962 Jefferson nickel based on condition. A circulated coin is worth 5 to 10 cents, but if you have a mint state coin, or one graded MS65 or higher, you're looking at values from $5 to $30. Proofs in high condition can reach even higher values. So, should you hold onto your 1962 Jefferson nickel? Well, if it's in good condition or even has a proof finish, it could be worth a few dollars to a collector. But beyond the potential value, it's a piece of American history, a small part of the story of Thomas Jefferson, Monticello, and an era when coin collecting really began to take off. Next up now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1996 Canadian nickel. On the obverse or front, we have a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. This particular design of Queen Elizabeth, crafted by Dora de Pedery-Hunt, was first introduced in 1990. It features the Queen in a more mature representation, wearing a crown. Dora de Pedery-Hunt was a renowned Canadian sculptor, and her design was the first portrait of the Queen to be designed by a Canadian artist. Below the Queen's portrait, we have the Latin inscription DG Regina, which stands for Dei Gratia Regina, meaning by the grace of God, Queen. On the reverse side, we have the iconic beaver, sitting on a rock. This design was created by Canadian artist G.E. Kruger Gray and has been featured on the nickel since 1937. The beaver, one of Canada's national symbols, represents hard work, industry, and resourcefulness, qualities often associated with the country and its people in terms of specifications. The 1996 Canadian 5-cent coin has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, a thickness of 1.76 millimeters, and a weight of 3.95 grams. It's made from copper-nickel, a durable alloy that resists corrosion and maintains the coin's longevity. The Royal Canadian Mint produced over 121 million of these nickels in 1996 alone. They were minted in both the Ottawa and Winnipeg facilities, both known for their high-quality coin production. Now, you might be wondering, is the 1996 nickel worth more than face value today? Well, in most cases, the 1996 nickel doesn't carry high value for collectors. Since so many were minted, they are fairly common, and the standard versions are still worth just 5 cents. However, if you have a coin in mint condition or uncirculated condition, meaning it has no wear or scratches, it might be worth a bit more. A 1996 nickel in pristine condition can be valued at around 25 to 50 cents among collectors, though these values fluctuate with market demand. But there's something else to look for with the 1996 nickel errors. Sometimes, coins have minting errors that can make them especially valuable. While no major minting errors are common for this year, always be on the lookout for any unusual markings or misalignments, as they could increase the coin's worth to collectors. If you come across a 1996 nickel with a significant minting flaw, it could be worth several dollars or more depending on the rarity and demand among collectors. Before we wrap up, here are a few fun facts about the Canadian nickel. Did you know that during World War II, Canada produced victory nickels to support the Allied effort? These nickels featured a V for victory and a Morse code message around the rim: read win, when we win, we work willingly. It's a great example of how coins can reflect a nation's history and culture. So, there you have it, the full story of the 1996 Canadian 5-cent coin. From its historical roots to its design and collectability, the Canadian nickel continues to be a fascinating part of Canadian heritage. Next up, the 1973 Jefferson nickel. On the obverse side, we have a profile portrait of Thomas Jefferson facing left. Above Jefferson's portrait, you'll see the word Liberty and the year 1973 in front of him. On the reverse side of the coin, there's a depiction of Monticello, Jefferson's iconic Virginia home. The inscription above reads E pluribus unum, and underneath Monticello, you'll find the words Monticello and 5 cents at the bottom. The coin reads United States of America. The design emphasizes Jefferson's legacy, both as a president and an architect. Now, what makes the 1973 Jefferson nickel interesting for collectors? First, let's talk about mint marks. Like many U.S. coins, the 1973 nickel was minted at different locations, which you can identify by looking at the mint mark. You'll find it to the right of Jefferson's bust. In terms of production, Philadelphia and Denver minted millions of these coins, but the San Francisco Mint produced fewer because they focused on proof coins that year. So the 1973's proof nickel is a bit more valuable and desirable among collectors, especially in pristine condition. The 1973 Jefferson nickel, like other nickels made since 1946, is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs exactly 5 grams and has a diameter of 21.2 mm. Although it doesn't contain any silver or precious metals, its copper-nickel composition is quite durable. This coin also has a smooth edge without ridges, which is unique compared to dimes, quarters, and half dollars. One of the most common questions is, what's the value of a 1973 Jefferson nickel? For a circulated 1973 nickel in average condition, its face value is still 5 cents. However, collectors value coins that are in uncirculated or proof condition much more. In mint state, or MS grades, which range from MS60 to MS70, these coins can be worth from a few dollars to over $10, depending on the grade. Proof coins from San Francisco, which are specifically made for collectors, can be worth even more if they're in PR67 or higher condition. For rare varieties or error coins from 1973, like any unusual doubling or striking errors, the value can go up significantly. If you have a 1973 Jefferson nickel, it might be worth getting it professionally graded if you believe it's in high condition or if it looks unique. The Jefferson nickel is one of the longest-running designs in U.S. history. It was only slightly altered in 2005 with the Westward Journey series, but returned to the classic design soon after. Felix Schlag originally designed Monticello with more intricate details, but the Mint simplified it to make the production easier. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, which makes it over 80 years old. So coins like the 1973 nickel are part of a continuous legacy. So, if you're sorting through your change, what should you look for in a 1973 Jefferson nickel that might increase its value? Coins that have minimal wear and no scratches or blemishes are worth more. Look for clean, sharp details on Jefferson's face and Monticello. Check for the S mint mark, which indicates a proof coin from San Francisco, generally worth more than circulated versions. Look closely for any misstrikes or doubling on the date, letters, or features. Errors are rare but can significantly increase value. So, that's our deep dive into the 1973 Jefferson nickel. Whether you're a serious collector or just enjoy the history, coins like this offer a fascinating glimpse into America's past and numismatic artistry. If you have a 1973 nickel, check it out and see if it's worth holding on to. Next up now, let's look at the specific features of the 1984 Jefferson nickel. On the obverse, we see a left-facing profile of Thomas Jefferson, his stern expression symbolizing resilience and strength. The word liberty appears to the left, with the date 1984 just to the right, accompanied by the mint mark P, which stands for the Philadelphia Mint. This mint mark indicates that the coin was produced in Philadelphia. Interestingly, the Philadelphia Mint began adding mint marks to Jefferson nickels in 1980, so the 1984 P nickel was among the earlier examples to bear the P mark. Turning the coin over, we see Monticello, Jefferson's historic plantation home in Virginia. The building is beautifully depicted, showcasing its classical architecture. Above Monticello, the word Monticello is inscribed, and below it, the words 5 cents and United States of America frame the image. Just above Monticello, you'll notice the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one symbolizing unity. The Jefferson nickel has specific dimensions that distinguish it from other American coins. It weighs 5 grams and has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters. The 1984 P nickel is composed of a 75% copper and 25% nickel blend, which gives it a unique, slightly silver color compared to other copper-based coins. Now, let's talk about the value of the 1984 P Jefferson nickel. Since the Philadelphia Mint produced a substantial number of these coins, they're relatively common. However, if you have one in exceptional, mint state condition, it may hold extra value. Coins graded MS65 or higher can be worth anywhere from $1 to $5, depending on the quality. Additionally, look out for any special characteristics, like die errors or striking anomalies, as these can increase the coin's worth. Some error coins from this year have been known to sell for significantly more. If you're lucky enough to find one with a rare error, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Here are some fun facts about the Jefferson nickel. Did you know that it's one of the few coins to remain largely unchanged in design for so long? The portrait of Jefferson remained the same from 1938 until 2005, when it was slightly updated. And here's another interesting fact: the nickel's alloy composition was essential during World War II. The Mint removed nickel from the composition to save it for military production, resulting in the war nickel made of silver from 1942 to 1945. After the war, they returned to the traditional copper-nickel blend that we see in the 1984 P Jefferson nickel. If you're interested in collecting Jefferson nickels, you're in luck. They're affordable and easy to find, especially if you're just starting. Look for high-grade nickels with minimal wear, strong details, and good luster. Proper care is also essential. Keep them in plastic holders to avoid scratches and avoid cleaning them, as this can decrease their value. Next up, the 2004 U.S. Mint decided to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the Lewis and Clark expedition with a new series of designs. This became known as the Westward Journey Nickel series, which ran from 2004 to 2006. The 2005 Jefferson nickel, which we're focusing on today, is part of this commemorative series. The 2005 Jefferson nickel had two unique designs. Unlike the classic Jefferson profile, these coins feature two new designs, one on the obverse and one on the reverse, that were totally different from what collectors were used to. These coins mark the first time Jefferson's portrait was significantly redesigned since the original nickel in 1938. First, we have the American Bison nickel, minted early in 2005. On the reverse, we see an image of a bison, also known as a buffalo. This design represents the Great Plains, which were explored during the Lewis and Clark expedition. The bison symbolizes the native wildlife that played a critical role in the ecosystem and culture of the plains. Later in 2005, a second design was released. This is known as the Ocean in View nickel, featuring a beautiful landscape of the Pacific Ocean as seen from the west coast. The phrase ocean in view, O. The joy is inscribed, reflecting the words of William Clark upon reaching the Pacific coast in 1800. The 2005 nickel also introduced a new portrait of Jefferson on the obverse. The U.S. Mint used a forward-facing portrait by sculptor Joe Fitzgerald. This was actually the first time in American coinage history that a forward-facing view was used on circulating coins. The new design brought a modernized look to Jefferson's profile and gave the coin a fresh feel that collectors found exciting. Now let's talk about collecting the 2005 Jefferson nickel. Because the coins are relatively recent, they're not rare or highly valuable in circulated condition. However, in uncirculated condition, these coins are popular with collectors who enjoy commemorative coin designs. Nickels from this series with no wear, clear details, and in their original mint luster are worth a bit more to collectors, especially when graded by professional grading services. Some varieties also exist, so always check for unique characteristics or errors. The Westward Journey nickel series, including the 2005 nickels, was hugely popular and inspired the mint to keep updating the Jefferson nickel. In 2006, they introduced a permanent new design with a side profile of Jefferson and kept the Monticello on the reverse. These changes all started with the 2005 nickel, making it a landmark in US. Coin history. So, that's a wrap on the 2005 Jefferson nickel. This coin isn't just another nickel. It's part of a commemorative series that tells the story of America's westward expansion and celebrates the natural beauty and history of the United States. Whether you're a collector or just enjoy learning about coins.
The 1995 P Monticello nickel in damaged condition and what it's worth in the current market. If you've got one of these coins lying around, this video could help you understand its value, even if it's in less than perfect shape. Let's get into it. First off, let's talk about the coin itself. This is the 1995 P Monticello nickel minted at the Philadelphia Mint. As part of the Jefferson nickel series, it features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and on the obversello, his iconic Virginia home, on the reverse. The P Mint mark indicates it was struck in Philadelphia. Now, in normal, good condition, this coin is worth its face value of 5 cents. But what happens when the coin is in damaged condition? Maybe it's scratched, worn, or has some other form of impairment. Does it still hold value for collectors? When it comes to damaged coins, the value is usually affected. The more damage the coin has, the less it's worth. This is because collectors tend to prefer coins in better condition. However, there's still some demand for certain damaged coins, especially if they're rare or have some kind of unique imperfection. For a 1995 P Monticello nickel in damaged condition, you're likely looking at a value of around 5 to 20 cents in today's market, depending on the severity of the damage. If the damage is minor, like light scratches or discoloration, you might be able to fetch closer to 20 cents. However, if the coin is heavily worn, scratched, or dented, the value will likely hover closer to the 5-cent range. Basically, it's worth close to face value. Now, you might be wondering, is it worth keeping or selling a damaged coin like this? If you're just a casual collector, there's no harm in holding on to it. But if you're looking to sell, you might not get much unless it's part of a larger collection or if there's something particularly rare about the damage. To get a better idea of how the condition impacts value, let's take a quick look at some other examples. This 1995 P Monticello nickel in perfect condition could be worth anywhere from 50 cents to a few dollars, depending on how well it's graded. But again, damage can significantly lower its value. So what's the takeaway here? A 1995 P Monticello nickel in damaged condition won't make you rich, but it can still have some value, just not much more than face value unless it's in better shape or has a unique error. Next up, the 2001 D Monticello nickel, struck at the Denver Mint and exploring its value in fine condition in today's coin market. If you've got one of these coins or you're just curious about the value of modern nickels, stay tuned. Let's dive in. All right, so let's start with the basics. This is the 2001 D Monticello nickel, part of the Jefferson nickel series. On the obverse, we have a portrait of Thomas Jefferson, and on the reverse, the beautiful depiction of Monticello, Jefferson's historic home in Virginia. The D mint mark tells us that this coin was minted in Denver. The 2001 design is part of the series that continues to honor Jefferson and his legacy. But what makes this coin special today is its condition. We're talking about the 2001 D Monticello nickel in fine condition. Fine condition means the coin shows noticeable wear, but the main details are still visible. For example, Jefferson's features in Monticello are well defined, but the coin may have some light scratching, slight discoloration, or minor wear on the raised areas. Coins in fine condition typically have some wear on the high points like Jefferson's hairline or Monticello's roof, but overall, it's still recognizable and collectible. Well, for a 2001 D Monticello nickel in fine condition, the value is pretty modest. As of now, the coin is generally worth about 10 to 25 cents in today's market. This is because it's not considered rare, and it's a relatively common date for the Jefferson nickel series. Even in fine condition, the 2001 D Monticello nickel doesn't stand out in terms of rarity or demand. Most modern nickels, especially from the early 2000s, are fairly abundant and don't carry much premium unless they're in better condition or have a specific error. For comparison, a 2001 D Monticello nickel in uncirculated or higher grades, say MS65 or above, could be worth anywhere from $1 to $2 or more, depending on the exact grade and market demand. But if you're holding a 2001 D in fine condition, you're likely not going to see a big profit. That said, if you have a collection of nickels from the early 2000s, they might still hold value to you as part of a larger set. And hey, you never know, sometimes demand for specific years can fluctuate over time. So what's the takeaway here? A 2001 D Monticello nickel in fine condition isn't going to make you rich, but it's still a nice piece of history from the Jefferson nickel series. Whether you're collecting for fun or looking to sell, understanding the condition and rarity of your coins is key to getting the right value. Next up, the 1984 P Monticello nickel, struck at the Philadelphia Mint. If you've got one of these in fine condition, you might be wondering what it's worth today. Stick around as we break down its current market value and what makes this coin interesting to collectors. So let's start with the basics. This is the 1984 P Monticello nickel, part of the ongoing Jefferson nickel series. As you can see, the obverse features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson, while the reverse shows Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia. The P mint mark means it was minted in Philadelphia. This design has been used since 1938, and it's a familiar one for many collectors. But what we're focusing on today is the condition of this coin and how that impacts its value. Now, the coin we're discussing today is in fine condition. In coin grading, fine condition means the coin has been circulated but still has most of its major features visible. You might notice some wear, particularly on the raised areas like Jefferson's portrait or the top of Monticello, but the details are still pretty clear. Here you can see that in fine condition, there's light wear on the highest points of the coin, but Jefferson's facial features and Monticello's outlines are still clearly visible. It's not mint state, but it's certainly not heavily worn or damaged either. At present, a 1984 P Monticello nickel in fine condition is valued at about 10 to 20 cents in today's market. While this is slightly above face value, it's not a coin that's going to make you a fortune. Most modern nickels, especially from the 1980s, are fairly common and don't carry much premium unless they're in better condition or have unique errors. Now, if this coin were in higher grades like uncirculated or MS65, you could see values rise to $1 or $2 or more, depending on the exact grade and the current market demand. But for a fine condition 1984 P nickel, you're looking at a modest value. For comparison, a nickel in higher grades, say MS65, might be worth a couple of dollars. However, in fine condition, it's really just a nice, well-worn piece of history. So, is it worth holding on to a 1984 P Monticello nickel in fine condition? Well, for most collectors, it won't break the bank, but it could still be a nice addition to your collection, especially if you're building a set of Jefferson nickels or looking to collect coins from specific years. Coins like this one are a great reminder that condition matters in the coin market. Even though this 1984 P Monticello nickel isn't worth a lot, it's still a piece of numismatic history, and it might be worth keeping if you're interested in the series. Next up, the 1995 P Monticello nickel in good condition, and we're going to break down its current value in the market today. If you've got one of these nickels, or you're just curious about what coins like this are worth. So let's get into it. This is the 1995 P Monticello nickel, part of the iconic Jefferson nickel series. On the obverse, you'll find the well-known portrait of Thomas Jefferson. And on the reverse, you've got Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home. The P mint mark indicates that this coin was minted in Philadelphia. This design has been in circulation since 1938, and it's a familiar sight to many collectors. But today we're focusing specifically on the 1995p version, and more importantly, its condition. This particular coin is in good condition. Now, what does that mean for coin collectors and numismatists? In coin grading, good condition refers to a coin that has been heavily circulated. The details are still visible, but there's significant wear, especially on the raised areas like Jefferson's face and Monticello's roof. As you can see, the details are still somewhat visible, but you can tell that the coin has seen a lot of circulation. Jefferson's features are worn down, and Monticello's edges are a bit flattened, but it's still recognizable. Well, based on the current market, a 1995p Monticello nickel in good condition is generally worth about 5 to 10 cents. It's close to face value, but it's a bit higher because of its status as a collectible coin, even in a worn state. Most modern nickels from the 1990s don't carry a huge premium unless they're in uncirculated condition or have some sort of unique error. So in good condition, you're really looking at a modest increase over its original 5-cent value. Just for comparison, if this coin were in a much better grade, say uncirculated or MS65, it could be worth $1 or more. But for a 1995p nickel in good condition, you won't see that kind of value. It's all about the condition. That being said, if you have a collection of 1995p Monticello nickels in different conditions, it can still be fun to compare and see how the value changes with different grades. And if you're holding on to a stack of these, remember that even modestly valued coins can add up over time if you've got a lot of them. Coins like this 1995p Monticello nickel are a reminder that while some coins may not be worth a lot, they still hold a place in history and they can be valuable as part of a complete collection. Next up, the 1948 Monticello Jefferson nickel without a mint mark. If you've got one of these or you're just curious about its value, stick around, you're going to want to hear this. Here's the 1948 Jefferson nickel, and if you look closely, you'll notice something very important. This coin doesn't have a mint mark. That means it was struck in Philadelphia, which is actually the only mint that didn't use a mint mark that year. Now, let's talk about its value in today's market, and specifically if you've got this coin in extra fine condition. An extra fine coin, by definition, has minimal wear and tear, with most of the design still visible in sharp details. It's a pretty good condition, but not quite perfect. In extra fine condition, the 1948 Jefferson nickel is worth more than just its face value of 5 cents. As of 2024, you can expect to see prices for this coin ranging from $3 to $5, depending on its exact condition, the current market, and any collector interest. Now, that may not seem like a huge amount, but considering this is a 1948 coin that has been in circulation for decades, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. And if your coin is in higher grade, say extremely fine or even uncirculated, it can be worth a lot more, potentially up to $25 or $30 or more. The condition of the coin is crucial. Coins are graded based on factors like wear, luster, and overall appeal. An extra fine coin means it has seen some circulation but still retains most of its original details. So if you've got one of these 1948 Jefferson nickels without a mint mark in your collection, now you know what it's worth in extra fine condition, but always remember the value of a coin can fluctuate based on demand and trends in the market. If you're thinking about selling, it's a good idea to check with a professional appraiser or consult online marketplaces to get an up-to-date valuation. And don't forget, if you're not sure whether your coin is in extra fine condition or something else, a little closer inspection can help. And remember, condition matters a lot when it comes to value. Next up, the 1981 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark. Specifically, we're going to discuss its value in today's market, even when it's in a dirty, worn condition. So if you've got one of these coins lying around, you might want to keep watching. The 1981 Jefferson nickel was struck by the U.S. Mint at the Philadelphia Mint, marked by the P mint mark on the reverse side. This coin features the familiar design of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, which is where the name Monticello nickel comes from. Now, we all know that coin values can vary depending on their condition. So what's the deal with a 1981 nickel in dirty or worn condition? Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state, but we're specifically talking about coins in less than ideal condition, maybe with some dirt, tarnish, or wear from circulation. In this kind of condition, the 1981p Jefferson nickel is usually worth just 5 to 10 cents its face value, or maybe a little more if the coin is particularly well worn but still recognizable. Now, you might be thinking, why is this coin worth so little? Even if it's from a specific year, well, that's because the 1981p Jefferson nickel was produced in large numbers, around 1.5 billion of them. So it's not exactly rare, and the value really depends on its overall condition. Coins that are in cleaner, better condition, especially those that are uncirculated or near mint, can be worth more. But for a dirty or worn coin like this one, the value isn't going to be much higher than its face value. However, if you happen to have a 1981 Jefferson nickel in a higher grade, say in uncirculated or even MS65 condition, it could be worth a little more, sometimes even $1 to $2, or slightly higher depending on the market. But again, in the condition we're talking about here, the dirty or worn 1981p nickel isn't going to fetch much. If you want to know about other Jefferson nickels that are worth more, check out our other videos about rare error coins and key date varieties. Those can fetch a much higher price, especially if they're in excellent condition. Next up today, we're going to take a closer look at a 2000 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark, specifically one in extra fine condition. If you've got one of these in your collection or you found one in your change, you're probably wondering what's it worth today. The 2000 Jefferson nickel is part of the modern series of nickels featuring the iconic design of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. The D mint mark indicates that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. It's part of the ongoing series that started in 1938, with the Monticello reverse being used since 1938 until the end of the 20th century. So how does this coin stack up in terms of value in extra fine condition? Well, let's break it down. Extra fine, or XF for short, means the coin is only lightweight and retains much of its original detail, but it's not perfect. You'll see a bit of smoothing on the highest points of the coin, like Jefferson's hair, but the overall design should still be sharp and easily recognizable. A 2000 Jefferson nickel in extra fine condition typically goes for around 10 to 15 cents in today's market. It's close to its face value, but slightly above that because it's in better condition than a coin that's been heavily circulated or worn. Now, you might be wondering, is this coin worth anything more? Well, because the 2000 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark was produced in relatively high numbers, around 1.6 billion. It's not a rare coin, and therefore its value doesn't go up significantly unless it's in higher grades. Coins in higher grades like Mint State MS63 or 65 can be worth a bit more, anywhere from 50 cents to a couple of dollars, depending on the exact grade and demand in the market. So if you've got a 2000 Jefferson nickel in extra fine condition, don't expect to make a huge profit off of it. It's a nice coin to have in your collection, but unless it's in uncirculated condition or has some rare die variety, its value won't be much more than a dime or a quarter. If you're into Jefferson nickels, though, there are plenty of rare ones to look out for, especially certain years and eras that can fetch significant sums. So be sure to check out our other videos where we talk about key dates and varieties that can make your collection more valuable. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more coin collecting content. See you next time. Happy collecting.